Hello everybody and welcome along to VSL F1 Season 10, round number 2 of the season and the first sprint race format of the season. It is of course Spielberg, the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. I'm joined once again by Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, sporting the bucket hat because I couldn't be bothered to do my hair before this. So yeah, I'm doing very well, yeah, thank you. It was a very interesting first round of the season at Silverstone, so looking forward to see what these drivers can do around Austria, and it being a sprint race, of course, means we've got a lot of racing ahead of us, so I think for us it's going to be a bit of a busy night, I would say.
Yeah, quite a busy night like you were saying, and we've got one-shot qualifying to kick off proceedings where it decides the grid for the sprint, and then the sprint race is 8 down to 1 point, so first place to 8th place gets point, and in the normal 50% race, normal points apply as well. And you got to think about obviously the results from last week. Jinx pull off a dominant victory in Silverstone as well to take his first victory of the season. Can he carry on his form, and does the sprint suit him? We'll have to wait and see. He's had unluck with the sprint in the past, but you never know. He may have turned his tune on the sprint, but we will have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, Jinx doing very well last week. Tam doing very well on debut. Quite a lot of debutants doing well as well. It'll be interesting to see how tonight's go with the debutant for their first sprint race overall.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how some of these debutants for tonight kind of fit into the field. I think it's fair to say that after Silverstone, obviously we didn't have any safety car really intervention in that race. It was a bit of a spread out field. They were kind of spread out into packs of 2 or 3 really, weren't they? And then Jinx was kind of in the lead of that race. But we said it a couple of times in the stream that Jinx was leading the way, but wasn't necessarily the fastest driver the whole way through. I think a couple of drivers, especially both of the Williams drivers, looked very, very fast in race conditions. They just didn't have the smoothest race, so they could really get the position that they wanted in the end of that one. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fit in, whether they fit into some of the front half of the field or the back half. And I think with it being a race, 2 races, of course, with the sprint and then the feature race, I think that's obviously going to play into the hands of the people that aren't as strong in qualifying, like the Williams pair that we saw last time. They struggled in qualifying but were really strong in the race. So I think we're going to see definitely some new faces at the front.
Yes, and obviously, of course, the top 12 score point in this league as well. So it's a good chance for people that you don't necessarily do well to score points, and we could see a lot of people shining in those sprint races as well. I'm trying to find the full standings, but I'm just trying to see where I saved it. I might have saved it on the wrong document. Silly me. And oh no, you're not seeing it on my screen. Actually, I'll get it up on the screen early because I don't want to spoil it too much, but I was going to go through the standings, but I just saw what the weather was, and it is chucking it down right now. One-shot qualifying is going to get even tasty indeed.
It's going to get very tasty, yeah, with it being one shot as well. We always think of wet condition qualifying about having getting multiple laps in to get used to it, but straight into it with one shot with what looks like full wet weather is going to be very interesting.
Yes, we will go through, hopefully, a lap of Austria very, very soon as the timer resets itself again. I'm unable to see any laps at the moment. Typical. I was going to go through standings, but I won't bother at the moment. But Austria have been known for many names of circuits, like the Austrian Ring was the first one back in the 1970s. It was measuring just under 6 kilometres. Obviously shorter than it is now, well, longer than it was now. Then we had the A1 wing, which is the one I remember when I was born. It was between 1997 and 2003. Hosted 7 Austrian Grand Prix at the time, with Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher taking the most wins there. And then we saw the Austrian Grand Prix return back in the Formula 1 calendar in 2014, where we saw the likes of Bottas, Hamilton, and Max Verstappen win a few Austrian Grand Prix races, in particular Max Verstappen, the most recent one, and having a Max Verstappen kind of grandstand in a way as well. 200,000 spectators over the course of the weekend. Of course, it goes up to even more the more fans that it attracts. Once again, obviously, the American fan base, I think, has increased quite a lot in Formula 1 now, with a lot of people watching it for Netflix as well. So Austria seems to be a lot more popular. And I'm just trying to see who else has been most successful as well. Alain Prost as well, who was quite successful in the 80s as well. McLaren, the team, has done quite well as well. And obviously Mercedes, as I was talking about a moment ago as well. And obviously won the corners, turn 1, named after the late Niki Lauda as well. The only Austrian driver to have won his home race as well. Obviously that's why it was called the Lauda curve in turn 1, which I think we will expect to see some track limit violations there, I think, tonight. A lot of people running wide.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a bit of a story of tonight, isn't it? Track limits around this track. There's only really, there's 10 corners officially, but you've got to say probably only 7 of them are actual physical corners that you have to think about when driving this circuit. So of the 7 corners, you could probably say 4 of them you have a real opportunity of getting a warning, especially the last 2 corners, the first corner as well, and then in the middle sector out of turn number 7. So yeah, a lot of things these drivers are going to have to worry about for this evening with track limits. Like you say, curbs as well around this track are pretty vicious, especially on the exit of turn 1. That yellow sausage curb is pretty vicious if you run a little bit wide. So yeah, there's a lot of, it's a fairly simple track on paper, but there's a lot of elements to it that make it very difficult.
Right then, are we ready to get going here in Austria? The answer to that is yes. We'll ride on board with Simon Palmer as he makes his way towards the start-finish straight into the Lauda curb as well. Obviously, it's much easier to see in the wet as well, and he's not taking the curb that much because he doesn't want to get a track limit warning so far, as he's going around about 180, 190 miles an hour as he short shifts into around about first gear in the wet, heading towards turn 3. Some people call it turn 2, but the official map is turn 3. He was a bit worse for wear on the exit there, struggling to get a bit of grip there, which is a lot harder on this game. As you head towards turn 4 now, what gear does he take through here? He takes it in second. Don't take it higher than that because that will cause the car to go into a bit of a spin. Oh, he's struggling a bit for traction. Heading through 5, heading towards turn 6 as well, where we've seen quite a few overtakes in real life and in league racing especially. Heading towards turn 7, where a lot of people can get caught up in the gravel traps, as I found out on this game as well. Heading under the bridge then and towards turn 8, and also the pit lane is very, very close, so be careful for those when we head to the 50% race later on. Final few corners, turn 9 and 10, and I don't think he's had that much problem with track limits. What does he do? A P4 for Simon Palmer, but it's Vatesy with a 1:15. I think I saw his lap time there, who takes his first pole position of the season, and a rookie taking top honours. It's great to see the rookie shining the old timers at the moment as well. But Simon Palmer, interestingly enough, you can see why he was struggling. He was on the intermediates.
Yeah, and interestingly, the only one that went for intermediates, like we saw, a little bit bizarre that he was the only one that went for those, but maybe it just goes to show that it was kind of on the limit between the wets and the inters as to what was the fastest tyre there, but didn't really work out too badly in the end for him. A lot of drivers, though, that were really strong last time out in Silverstone at the back of the field, namely our race winner from last time, 12th on the grid with no lap time on the board.
Yes, we've got Vatesy, Finley, Keza, Simon Palmer, Charlie Harris, Cam, Petrodats, Ewan, Casper and Yarham. Then we got Luke, Jinx, GMAT, Tam and Speed 9. And only 15 drivers today. Unfortunately, Matt can't race today. He's feeling unwell, but he is still hosting the lobby. So I really do appreciate him still taking the efforts to host the lobby today, which is great to see. But he's not going to be taking part due to him being ill, so get better soon, Matt. But luckily, you saw it briefly. It is nice and sunny at the moment in Austria. Hopefully, it stays that way. Now, Austria, one of the shortest laps on the F1 calendar as well. Only 10 corners as well. Some people may think it's easy, but it is hard in terms of track limit penalties and making sure that you get a decent lap and also getting a decent position as well. So one starting further down the grid, they're going to find it tough in the sprint race.
Yeah, they definitely are. Like you say, it's there's obviously quite a few overtaking opportunities on this track, but because of the nature of the circuit, it's very easy for a field to stay close together. And of course, we see DRS trains a lot around Austria, which is a common theme really of races around here. I mean, pretty much half the circuit is a DRS zone. So it's definitely difficult to overtake. On the face of it, it looks like an easy track to overtake on, but it is actually quite difficult because of those DRS trains that form, and you have to time your overtake correctly to make sure you're not then re-overtaking in the next DRS zone. So that's going to be difficult for people a bit further back in the field as well. Track limits we've already mentioned, as well as the curbs themselves, they're going to be difficult for these drivers to manage in this. And of course the problem now is that if you do get some sort of time penalty in the sprint race, it's going to affect you again in the feature race, so with the starting of that grid. So I feel like a time penalty in a sprint race is almost even more costly than it is in a natural race, because there's less time for the field to spread out. You could knock yourself out of points completely because there are less points on offer, and you're then hampered for the future race as well. So yeah, a lot of things for these drivers to try and balance in this race, and I think we'll see from maybe some people further back in the field, they won't make too many risks in this race just so that they can have a better time of themselves in the future race. I think they'll play it a little bit safe in this one.
We saw it in real life, didn't we, with the sprint race around Austria, that there weren't many overtakes in the sprint, but once it got to the feature race, many more overtakes were taking place. But then we saw in Brazil, there was a lot of overtakes due to the short lap, but probably because it's a lot easier to overtake and more people like it, potentially as well. But obviously in league racing, it's a lot different. That's probably why they have chosen Austria to be one of the sprint races this season. We do, of course, remember Miami being one of the sprint races last season. We know how that went, hence why we're not doing the sprint race around Miami this season. But I believe that's one of the tracks coming up next on the calendar after this one. So let's go straight to the track then. As well, we got, unsurprisingly, most people have gone for the medium tyres. I didn't know you could choose softs in the sprint. I thought you could only choose the mediums and the hards, but it must have been the tyre choice that people have selected potentially as well. If personally I would have gone for mediums, you have one set of mediums for the race, so that's no problem at all. It will be a one-stop race in the feature anyway. For the hards, you only get one for the whole weekend, so I don't understand why you've gone for the hards. I'm not sure we get an extra set, I don't know, but I can understand why the mediums and the softs were run, but the hards is a little bit of a risky strategy. But you know, we will see what Casper can do on the hard compounded tyres and Ewan on the softs. Softs don't tend to last long around here, so again, he's a bit risky with the strategy as well. But yeah, everyone has gone for a strategy that I was expecting. Our championship leader, though, Aiden, disqualified for the formation lap already.
Yeah, contact with his teammate potentially on the formation lap, so that's not a good start for the Mercedes pair for tonight. That's obviously not what they would want to have. Hopefully their tyres aren't too affected at the end of the formation lap and they can still compete. Of course, Mercedes leading the way in the constructors after the first round of the season are with a first and a 7th place finish for them last time out. So a bit of catching up to do for them in this sprint race to try and help themselves in the feature, but definitely a lot of people further down the field to look out for in this sprint race to see how far they can get up the field. Of course, I think the two on the very back row of the grid, Tam and Speed Knight, and two drivers that were fighting inside the top 5 last week in Silverstone.
The line correctly as I muted my mic there. I do apologise that we didn't catch the start properly because I muted my mic. I'm an absolute idiot. But anyway, we had a good start from Vaizia, a good start from Finley as they make past there into turn 1. But we saw Ewan that got caught up in at the background into P15. His hard tyres weren't the best of situations, not gonna lie. We got Petrodax up into 8th place. We've got the Ferrari going side by side with the Haas car as well, but he was able to stay where he is, unfortunately. Tam not getting up to a good start as well, but most drivers keeping it clean. Eventually Ewan got off the line, but it took a lot longer than expected to do so, unfortunately. But there we go. So Vaizia up to a great start as always, sets up things nice for him in the feature race so far. We've got both the Williams going side by side into turn 9 and 10 as Tam keeps the position from his teammate. We've got Yarham in there as well, 3 of the blue cars trying to go for moves. We've got 2 of the Red Bulls, I think, in front of them as well. Some great moves being made also, and one person's gone wide in turn 1 though on lap 2.
Yeah, quite a few people running wide on the opening lap as well into that first corner. A bit of a messy start all the way around, you've got to say. It was a bit of a crazy start to that race, but Cam now going for the move now on Keza, trying to get up into 4th position in that Williams, trying to see if he can work his way past the Red Bull just in front of him. Waitsy and Finley, by the way, are disappearing at the front of the field after that carnage on the first lap. They are gone up the road. They are miles ahead of the 2 Red Bulls. Cam's still down the inside at turn 4. Keza's holding it on around the outside. It looks like Keza might just be able to hold on to this one into turn number 6. He should have the inside line. Cam's still going to try and hold it around the outside. Does he get the better run into turn 7? He's got the outside line. Keza's forced on the curb and Cam gets it done. That's a lovely move. And Tam's going to follow through as well. The 2 Williams working well together as a pair. And by the way, can I just note that Tam started this race on the back row with a grid, and already by the end of lap 2 he's into the top 5. What a sprint race Tam is already having here. It's been a crazy start for the Williams driver, but after the end of the second lap, top 2 3 seconds now ahead of Simon Palmer. They have got such a lead on the field.
Yeah, they have at the moment. We've got such a big group already, and we've still got some moves going side by side. Once again, it is Williams versus Red Bull this time. We've got Cam versus Simon Palmer. It looks like Cam's going to gain a position off the Red Bull driver. I wonder if the Williams teammates will start to work together here as they make their way go towards down the hill into turn 4. As Cam looks like he's got the better line here through traction, but we got 3 wide potentially into turn 4. One of the Williams drivers had to back off. We got Yarham and Keza going for a move. We got the Ferrari of Charlie Harris and also Jinx trying to make his way up through the field as well. As the 2 Mercedes trying to go work together, we got Jinx almost trying to go around the outside there as well. Charlie Harris trying to go for a brave move into turn 7. Can he hold his line? The answer to that is no. Luke was just about to be able to hold on to that, and the Mercedes now up into 8th and 9th position, and Charlie Harris into 10th position. We've got one person going into the pit, so one of these picked up a bit of damage there. Reminder that you don't have to pit in the sprint race, so he's probably picked up a bit of damage at the moment so far. Top 2 still leading the field away, but Tam still loving the pace that he's got at the moment. He's definitely faster than Simon Palmer, so let's see what he could do. We got to change for the lead though, as Finley takes a move into turn 2. But what about the Red Bull versus Williams? It could go advantage Williams coming up the hill of Cam, but I think Tam is potentially going to get, well, Simon Palmer's going to get DRS coming in towards turn 4. There's just so much action happening in the first few laps as Simon Palmer then goes around the right hand side and he gets the job done. Maybe not. Tam then goes for a different line heading towards turn 6 as well. It is so hard to control with the speed and making sure that you keep the traction, keep the smoothness on the wheel, but still going side by side to turn 7 and 8. How these guys are keeping it on the road, I don't know. This is great racing. Yellow flag. That is Uranus gone off once again, but Simon Palmer just about holding on to P4. Incredible racing.
Yeah, really, really great racing between the pair of them. I think Tam got an illegal overtake as well and had to let the Red Bull back through. We've got another spinner. That's Yarum that spun in the Alpine down at the end of the lap at the final corner. Tam has got the move done on Simon Palmer into turn 1, but Simon Palmer could get the run back here. In fact, Simon Palmer, though, doesn't have DRS, which is going to leave him vulnerable to Keza, his teammate, who's having a look down the inside on Simon Palmer for a spot in the top 5. The Red Bulls do nearly come together. They're side by side through the hairpin. Is Jinx going to have anything to say about that? Yes, he's going to put it 3 wide with the 2 Red Bulls. Can Jinx get past the pair of them? No, he can't. He's got no ERS left. He cannot get past the Red Bulls. I think Keza's just going to hold on to the spot here down the inside. Jinx thinks about the move, but not quite close enough. Simon Palmer, they make contact, wheel to wheel, and around goes Simon Palmer. Jinx sideways as well, and Jinx has been hit by GMAC, I think, who has gone around. Yeah, GMAC has gone around. Petra Dax has spun around as well. We've got a full safety car there after that contact as well. GMAC out on the spot. Jinx spun around with damage. Petra Dax no front wing. That was messy. That was really, really messy there in the end. The 2 Red Bulls fighting really hard and just contact there between Simon Palmer and Jinx spinning in front of the field. Of course, carnage as Waitsy is pitted from the lead. That is a very odd call from Waitsy to pit from that position, but we see Luke and Casper in as well. Casper's not a surprise. He was on the hard compound tyres. Still confused as to why he started on the hard compound tyres, but Waitsy's in for softs from the lead of the race. What that does do, though, is free up the Williams to have a run at Finley for the lead of this sprint race. And wow, what a sprint race the Williams pair are having. They are flying through this field.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really great to see the Williams drivers pretty much scoring points for the Constructors' Championship. And I was looking at the Constructors' Championship going into this one as well. Obviously, Tam and Cam. Well, Tam scoring the most points in the first race in Silverstone, scoring well on debut. Cam spun quite a few times, but he recovered to get 2 points last week in Silverstone, but it could have been a lot higher as well. So this could have been an opportunity for him to potentially get an advantage going into the feature race, because when he gets pole, usually he does well in the race and mostly wins that race as well. So we'll look at the tyres, and obviously GMAT, one of our reserve drivers filling in for Hayden this week, is now out of it. But we got Vaty, our race leader, was our race leaders on soft, same with Luke Casper, Charlie Harris and Petra Dax as well. They want to probably save a bit of their means for the 50% race later on potentially as well. But we've seen with Ewan how the softs don't last very long at all, so I don't get why some people go for the soft compounder tyres, but I'm guessing they want to be fast towards the end. But we've seen how Ewan has spun quite a bit as well, but it took a long time for his tyre to get up to temperature potentially, where they have more time this time due to the fact that they're under safety car. So who knows? Obviously we'll have to wait and see. The top 8 score points, and there's going to be, I think, a few stewards' inquiries coming in on this one as well, with a few contacts, especially with the Mercedes drivers as well. It was quiet last week with the stewards. I expect it to be very busy this week.
Something about a sprint race, isn't it? And something about Austria brings out the craziness in league racing, you've got to say. It's definitely very interesting. I'm not surprised by the pit stop for the likes of Luke and Casper and Yaram and Charlie Harris and all that. I think that's not really a surprise, I would say. They were kind of at the back of the train anyway. The drivers that were at the very back of the train either had damage and had to pit anyway, or were too far back. So I think not a surprise for them to pit, but definitely a huge surprise for Waitsy to pit from the lead of the sprint race down into 6th on a set of soft compound tyres. He's only going to have, if we get the safety car in at the end of this lap, which we should do, he's only going to have 5 laps left to get back through this field of cars, and I don't really see it working for Waitsy. I'm not really sure as to why he's pitted for this set of soft compound tyres, but we will wait and see. Safety car is in this lap. We've got Dewan, by the way, on the grass in the background. He's trying to get out the... Yeah, he's a lap down. He's trying to get out of the way of everybody else, which is good to see. The only problem is that some people may be getting illegal overtaking penalties on him, but he is off the track, so that shouldn't be too much of a worry. But we're about to get going with 5 laps left of the sprint race, and we'll see what these drivers can do. But definitely watch out for that Williams pair. They look strong.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see which of the Williams pair will be strong after the end of this sprint race as well. Will there be team orders, or will they be allowed to race? I'm almost certain the pit crew in the Williams camp in Grove will be allowing them to race. Finley must be under a lot of pressure. 5-second penalty for Jinx. Severe collision with Simon Palmer. Now, there must have been a trouble going on in the background as well. So I think he's going to be starting near the back of the feature race. Not good for our championship leader. He's not got off to a great start at all, but Finley is pulling away already from Cam. Those medium tyres are warmed up perfectly for that Alpine driver then as well. Tam then, there's so many want named driving is ridiculous, but anyway, Tam not being able to close up to his teammate as he would have liked, but we're seeing Jigs and Simon Palmer going up once again, pushed off the road. I think there's a lot of rivalry between the two of them at the moment, but you can see Racy and Knighton going side by side heading towards turn 4. This is where we saw Lewis Hamilton and Alex Albon made contact and have a little bit of a spin. Same with Sergio Perez and Hamilton as well. No, it was someone has gone off. That is Jinx, and also the McLaren of Casper. Yeah. Now, last season we saw Casper win the race in Austria. Doesn't look like he's going to win it today, but you never know because we still got the sprint race to go. Jinx has caused a lot of incidents, it seems, already, and we're only on lap 8.
Yeah, it's not been a great race so far for Jinx. I don't know if any of them really... I don't know how many of them have been his fault and who's not. Jinx, though, in that one was kind of spun on his own, and Casper was the innocent party in the aftermath of that, so nothing really either of them could have done in that situation. As further up the field, Simon Palmer and Luke going side by side. Luke trying to get past Simon Palmer in the Red Bull, who's also been in a bit of a scrap so far in this race. Luke backs out of the move and gives the space back to the Red Bull again, but look at how spread out the field is at the front. Finley's leading by 0.6 of a second over Cam, but Cam's dropped Tam by 1.5 seconds, and there's now 1.6 seconds back to Keza in 4th. They've really spread out at the front of the field in just one lap under the safety car as Luke and Simon Palmer once again side by side. Luke on those softs trying to work his way through the field a little bit, gets down the inside. Simon Palmer can't really do anything about it. Luke is up into 7th position. He'll chase after Speed Knight and see if he can get his way through. Waitsy as well on the back of Keza for P4, but immediately you can see that this strategy for Waitsy has not worked out at all, because he is already nearly 5 seconds off, well, 4 seconds off the lead already and we've only been going for another lap. So this really hasn't worked for Waitsy, even though he does look fast at the moment. What he's lost in terms of what he's gained has just not been good. It's not been really worth the payoff this pit stop, unfortunately. But Waitsy should get past Keza very quickly, and Cam now is onto the back of Finley. So Cam here has a chance of winning this race.
Yes, Cam, I think, struggled to warm his tyres, and now he's got it into the operating window. Could this be the chance where he could be starting on pole for the feature race? We'll have to wait and see. Goes to the right-hand side line, in towards turn number 3 then. Is Finley going to let that go? The answer to that is yes. Cam is your race leader for this sprint race so far as well. Finley's going to have the DRS. Meanwhile, Keza and Raty going for a little bit of battle. Another yellow flag. That is Feed Knighton has had a bit of an off, unfortunately. But Keza still having the upper hand, and yeah, Raty should have stayed on those mediums, and he could have had that gap that we saw Finley earlier on as well. Look at the gap that Cam was already pulling on those medium tyres, 6/10 of a second. Maybe it was a little bit of a mistake from Raty then, but he probably didn't know how Ewan was struggling on those soft tyres earlier potentially. But we still got the feature race to go, still plenty of opportunities for him to come back in this one as well, with only a few laps to go. But yeah, his tyre is struggling to overheat, it looks like, at the moment as well. Any other drivers have had a good race so far. Charlie Harris up to 7th. I think pretty much everyone from like 8th downwards seem to be involved in quite a lot of carnage so far in this race. Some people with no fault of their own. Some people have caused the incidents, but again, it will be up to the stewards. Here comes, I think, can we see another challenge for the lead? No, it's between Finley and Tam, actually. As Tam trying to go down the inside this time of Finley. So I wonder if Finley is struggling a little bit on traction. Could this be a Williams 1-2? Before the race even begun? Casper's now out this run. He's retired in the pit lane. He's given up. He's going to be starting in 14th position in the feature race. Unfortunately, Vasey not able to get past Keza, unfortunately. So the top 4 pretty much nose to tail at the moment as being the clear favourites to potentially get the podium. Unfortunately, Keza is a little bit further away from Tam in order to do so. I think we saw another spinner as well. Jinx having another spin in turn 4, and he retired on track. I don't think you're allowed to retire on track, so he's going to get a severe penalty, I think, unless... actually, no, I can't remember if he's retired on track now, but if he does retire on track, he gets a severe penalty for the next race, so something for the stewards to look into.
Yeah, that's definitely a retirement on track, so that's going to be something that's going to be coming his way. Waitsy here trying to get a move done on Keza, but it's actually been caught by Luke behind now. So instead of going forwards, Waitsy's about to go backwards here. Luke going down the inside line. He's going to try and get the move done on Waitsy. Can he have a look down the inside of Keza as well? Keza leaves him just a little bit of space, but Waitsy on the outside is trying to get a run. Charlie Harris is in this as well. Charlie Harris is almost bump drafting the Mercedes down the back straight. He's going to make it 3 wide now in the Ferrari. Is Charlie Harris going to be the one that comes out of all of this with the best position? He's going to be down the inside at turn 4. They're still 3 wide. Oh, and there's contact. Off the road goes Luke and Charlie Harris. They both run wide. So Luke actually spins completely into the wall, which is such a shame. Waitsy still comes back out in 5th position, but it looks like Keza's going to hold on to that 4th now because of that mistake. Yeah, that was messy. Again, messy out of turn 4. But look at Cam coming around the final 2 corners. What a race from Cam here.
Yes, Cam, who just missed out on the championship last season, is going to start his season on a high this season in round 2. He wins the sprint race. He starts on pole. It's a Williams 1-2 as well on the front row. Just like a Mercedes 1-2 in Brazil, they went on to get a 1-2 in the race. Will traditions dictate that one? We'll have to wait and see. Finley comes across the line and will start in 3rd. Keza will start in 4th. Batesy will start in 6th with Charlie Harris, and 6th will go through the rest of the field in just a moment. But there seemed to be a lot of chaos. He did say a lot of people will pretty much not take any risk. Well, with this race, it was nothing but risk central.
Yeah, it was definitely the very opposite of what I predicted, wasn't it? That was the ultimate commentator's curse. I thought it was going to be a pretty tame race, and it was anything but. So we'll wait and see what the feature race is like. But yeah, perfect race there for Williams, and especially for Tam as well, from the back of the grid, the back row, 14th on the grid, to 2nd place in that race. Really, really good recovery from a disappointing qualifying for Tam, and that's going to help him no end, of course, in the Drivers' Championship, with him being 2nd at the moment after a 2nd place finish last time out.
Yes, we'll go through your order then as Cam, Tam, Finley, Keza, Ratesy, Charlie Harris, Simon Palmer and Petrodat will get some points in this one. So that is a bonus for them as well as them having good positions in the feature race. We've got Speed 19 in 9th, recovering after that spin, and Luke in 10th position, and Yarham, I didn't see the order that one as well, and I forgot to get the timings because I'm an absolute idiot. I selected the wrong one, but oh well. Feature race now is about to begin, and I think there's certain drivers that know that they need to keep it clean for this one, because otherwise they're going to be waiting a very long time for them to get back into this one. Luckily, we had obviously a safety car to bring people back into this one, but there's not going to be that much opportunity for them to come back in this one due to the track being so short, or in terms of penalties and stuff as well. But what is Cam going to do at this point? Is he going to play it safe? I don't think so. I think he's just going to make sure he holds on to that race victory. He can't afford to take a risk on the strategy.
No, he definitely can't. You'd think with someone like Tam, with the pace he's got, he's going to try and play it safe, you would say. But yeah, I definitely think that he's got an opportunity here to potentially run away with this race, I would say. You've got to say with Tam, haven't you? He looked really strong at the end of Cam, I would say. At the end of that sprint race, he looked really, really strong. He's got a lot of pace. It's definitely a great opportunity for him this race to try and lead from the front, similar to what Jinx did, of course. And the reason Jinx won last time out in Silverstone was because he had a really good grid spot compared to the people that were on the same pace as him. The people that had the same pace were too low down on the grid to really fight for the win. So I think Cam's in the same opportunity here to try and run away. Same with his teammate as well. If the Williams pair can work together in the early phases of the race, they could disappear up the road, and it may just be a fight for third behind that. So we'll wait and see. But I think the Williams pair here are in a perfect position to dominate this race.
Yeah, and one driver that will need to think, I think, a little bit harder to potentially do well is definitely Jinx. Obviously, Luke had a bit of an issue towards the end. We've had, obviously, Casper as well. There was quite a lot of drivers that had issues, didn't they? Towards the middle half of that race as well. I think it was a concertina effect of, like, safety cars and people. I think it was turn 4 that caused a lot of trouble, and obviously turn 6 and 7 for some people. What is it about the middle sector that makes things so tricky for the drivers?
It's hard to say, isn't it? I think turn 4 definitely. I think the reason for turn 4 is that it's a corner that tightens on exit. It's not a perfectly straight exit to the corner. It's almost just a continuous corner all the way through to turn 5, so you're never perfectly straight coming out the corner, which makes it difficult to run side by side because you're constantly turning. It's downhill as well. It's quite bumpy on the curb on the outside. There's definitely a dip in the track as well towards the exit. So turn 4 is very, very difficult to run side by side in because you're always going to wash out to the outside of the corner if you're on the inside. And you see that in real life F1. We've seen it many a time when someone tries to go around the outside of turn 4, that the driver on the inside just understeers, playing into the side of the car on the outside of them. So that's just kind of the nature of that corner, with it being downhill and a never tightening corner on the exit. So I think you're always going to see it at turn 4. I think it's similar as well where you don't see overtakes at turn 1. Turn 1's not really got that much of a braking zone. It's not wide enough, really, you would say, to run side by side through there without someone having to bail out the corner. But I think turn 4 presents itself as an opportunity for overtaking because it's a long braking zone, and then all of a sudden midway through the corner you realise that you're going to have to make the move stick before you've really got to the corner, otherwise it's not really ever going to work. So it's definitely one of those corners that's it's deceiving, that it looks like an overtaking opportunity but isn't. And I think the middle sector as well, you've definitely got to say places like turn 7 and turn 8, it's because of how long the corner is and how easy it is to overheat the tyres on this game. It's just one of those things where that's the real point on the circuit where you're going to have those problems with overheating, so you're going to see drivers making mistakes there, especially through turn 7 and 8. So yeah, there's a lot of parts of this track that, like we said earlier on paper this track looks incredibly simple, but it's actually not. There's a lot of detail to it that makes it actually quite a difficult circuit to master.
That's probably why I don't like this track on this game, because I always tend to get involved in incidents myself in turn number 3, so which was championship costly for one of them. But there we go. I don't want to dwell on that too much because that was in the past anyway. But whilst we wait for the race to start, we're about to go into formation lap in just a moment. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at VSL_F1. Instagram is at VSL_F1 as well, and subscribe to us on YouTube. We stream every Wednesday night at 8 PM with 2 tiers running simultaneously, and we got 15 drivers ready to go centre stage here in Austria tonight as well. And make sure you check our sponsors, PJR Designed as well, owned by one of our tier coordinators as well, that make lovely wheel rims as well, so make sure you check that out. But here we go then, we've got More people go on the hards this time, but they can use it for the race anyway. So top 2, interestingly, going on the hards. Well, they think they can go long, but we've seen how carnage the sprint race was. I'm a bit intrigued as to why they gone that as well. Same with Yarham, Ewan, Casper and GMAC. Everyone else has gone for medium tyres. That's what I would have gone for, to be honest, if it was this tier. Usually I judge what tyre I go on first with pretty much the incidents that usually happen with this tier around this track. If there's less incidents, I'm obviously inclined to go on the hards first. If there's usually more incidents around this track, maybe I would like to start on the mediums, bank for an early safety car, then could go onto the hards, get my one stop done nice and early. It's just hard to tell at times at the end of the day, but we have seen, haven't we, in other leagues, everyone going for the hard compounder tyres, because that's usually the best racing tyre in general. We've seen that in one of the leagues we commentated on. It's the same, well, it's a different thing here at VSL. The second race in a row, we've got a mixture in the strategy. I think it may be down to personal preference, really, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, isn't it? I think I love it when we see a mix in strategies. I think it's great. I think it really adds a new dynamic to the race. And of course, we saw Jinx last time out on that alternate strategy, starting on the softer compound available that day, the mediums, and it paying off for Jinx. So it's a case of, like you say, what you can expect of a race. Austria is safety car prone. We know that. We saw a safety car in the sprint race like we saw. So I think if you're going to bank on a track where you can get an early safety car and get an early pit stop in, Austria is definitely one of them. But if this is one of those races where it's plain sailing all the way through, just like Silverstone was without any safety car interference, then on paper, the hard to medium compound strategy is the better strategy. So it's a difficult one to manage. I think the Williams pair are banking on the fact that this is going to be a plain sailing kind of clean race, but I'm not banking on it being the same thing. So I probably would have gone for the mediums and banked for an early safety car as well.
Yes, I don't understand, to be honest, but the Williams have probably got nothing to lose. Anyway, 5 red lights are on. Hopefully my mic is unmuted this time for the race start for the Austrian Grand Prix, and it's go, go, go. And we've got Philly that's had a very good start and in towards turn 1, but Tam has got a much better launch up the line. Cam's got an awful getaway. Heading in towards turn 1, there's contact already in towards turn 1. A few people have gone off the track. It is carnage here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. The hills are definitely not alive here for some of these drivers, unfortunately, as Finley trying to get the race lead away from Tam, which he does with ease. The Alpine driver who didn't win the race is leading this one at the moment. Tam in second, Cam dropped down to third. Charlie Harris has had a good start. He's up to fourth. Keza staying where he is in fifth. Yarham and Ewan have had a good start as well. That Racy pretty much got caught up in that contact. I think pretty much everyone from like 10th downwards, I think, has got caught up in that contact. And I had some word from, I think, Petrodax as well. He thought it was going to rain for the feature race. It said it was going to rain. It turned out it wasn't going to rain. It was dry. So he's got a wet setup. That's probably why he's struggling and lost a bit of traction up the line. Oh, it's going to be... Oh, luckily it wasn't 3 wide there, going through turn number 8 there, as one person is already going into the pits already. That's Simon Palmer, so I think he was caught up in a little bit of escapades at the moment. But yeah, Finley having the start of dreams. Cam, not so much.
Yeah, not so much for Cam. Cam didn't really move off the line. He just wheel spinned and didn't go anywhere. Tam had a good start, but Finley, yeah, the better start on the mediums, as you would expect. Great start for Charlie Harris as well. Up a few places in that Ferrari. Also on the medium compound tyres, managed to skirt his way through the traffic and all the carnage on the first corner, as did Jinx as well, who was just gone off the road actually at turn 3, outbraking himself in the hairpin, and has dropped down to 7. Dewan has had a good start as well. A lap down in the sprint race, is already up to 6th in this race, so a good start for him in the AlphaTauri. But actually, while the Williams have lost out to Finley at the start, this has actually been quite a good start for them because of everybody else on the medium compound tyres behind them on the road having issues on that opening lap. It's actually given them a bit of breathing space behind, which is exactly what they needed. I think they can worry about Finley later on in the race when the tyres are better in there, when they're on the better tyres at the end, if we get to this race with no safety car. So actually for Williams, this is a pretty good way for this race to go for them in the early phases. By the way, the contact at the start, that was triggered by Simon Palmer outbraking himself and running into the back of Waitsy and towards turn 1. That spun the Alfa Romeo across the track, and everybody kind of went off and made contact in avoidance. So it was just the contact between Simon Palmer and Waitsy that triggered a whole bunch of people trying to avoid everybody else, which is why we saw so many people off the road and why we saw people like Keza having to pit as well for damage. damage. So yeah, that one unfortunately is on Simon Palmer on turn 1, so I wouldn't be surprised if Simon Palmer just gets some sort of penalty for that incident, which is a shame to see. Lead of the race though, Finley on those medium tyres, nearly 2 seconds up the road, and this is exactly what we saw in Silverstone, isn't it? After, well, just 2 laps in Silverstone, Jinx was 3 seconds up the road, and that is just the benefit of the softer compound tyres. And now we've got the 2 Williams going side by side, which is really the last thing they need to be doing. But if you're going based off of pace that we saw in the sprint, it would probably be smart for Tam to let his teammate go, because I think Cam definitely looks like the faster of the Williams tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like the Williams were squabbling a little bit there at the moment, but maybe they want to have a bit of sharing is caring, potentially, of Tam trying to go and challenge near the front. But because of that squabbling, Finley was able to pull that gap. And we saw that in Silverstone when Jigs was able to pull that gap. Despite him being on the medium tire to start with, he was on the hards until the end of the race and still managed to go with that race win. The gap, I think, was only 5 seconds to P2 in the end with the likes of Tam. I think we're going to have some similar situation here. It's kind of like a repeat effect for Tam, but different drivers. But looks like Cam is going to challenge Tam for P2 once again, which he does with ease at the moment, but Tam's going to fight back. A little bit of contact between the pair of them as well, which is not good for the Williams team. This will allow Charlie Harris some breathing space to try and go for the move as well too. And we got Johan and the other Alpine doing a solid job as well, trying to manage his hard tyres, but he's out that DRS train unfortunately as well. We got Luke, who's unfortunately made another pit stop. He's onto the hard tyres. I doubt that's going to make it to the end of the Grand Prix, but he's already, I believe, made 2 pit stops in the space of a few laps. So yeah, his day has gone from bad to worse, but luckily top 12 get points in this race, so still not over. It only takes 3 retirements and then you'll score points in this race, so no reason to give up. Just continue on, and you never know, you could get potentially your best result of the season. And as we're about to start lap 5, as you head towards turn 1, by the way, the sun is very blinding, so these drivers have got to watch out for their braking zones a little bit, especially if they don't use racing line as well, and sometimes use a certain shadow or braking reference for that, like a lamppost or something like that. But anyway, here goes Charlie Harris then. He's a little bit further back to go for the move as of, yeah, he was almost going to do a send on Tam there into turn number 3, but he backed off. He's going to wait for the DRS, I think, change round this corner, but Tam with a better straight line speed, I think it's definitely helping here as well, and that's what's helping him with having the extra straight line that he needs to pretty much keep P3 away from everybody else, to be honest. And due to the fact that most of the track are straights anyway, there's only less braking zones. You really need a car that's good for straight line speed as well, even though there's a few braking zones. But anyway, Charlie Harris though has got a lot of work to do, but he'll probably go for the undercut early on as well. No major problems for Jinx either. Jinx, even though speaking of that, penalty. That's my first commentator's curse of the stream, so that's 1-1.
We're on 1-1, yeah. Perfect timing, absolutely perfect timing. But yeah, Jinx first track limits time penalty of the race, which is a bit of a shame. But the field is really spread out after the carnage on the opening couple of laps. So actually, at the moment for Jinx, it's only going to cost him 1 place. Oh my word, Cam's all of a sudden taking the lead. Where has that come from? As Finley surely has made a mistake at turn 1, because Cam did not have DRS. So Finley's made a mistake at the first corner and has let Cam through into the lead of this race. Charlie Harris gets down the inside of Tam at the same time and is up into 3rd place in the Ferrari. So good move from Charlie up onto the podium places as it stands. So a bit of a move about at the front of the field. But yeah, Finley must have definitely made a mistake in the first corner of the lap, and that's allowed Cam into the lead on those hard compound tyres, and that puts Cam in a brilliant position in this race. If we go safety car free, if he can lead from the front on the hard compound tyres further down the field, Petrodax with that wet setup has managed to get past GMAC and is up into P9, so he's still solidly in the points despite not being on the correct setup at the moment for the conditions. So not doing too badly in that house is Dax at the moment. But yeah, Finley we're kind of seeing the same pattern with Finley here with what happened in the sprint race to now, aren't we, on these medium compound tyres. The first 5 or so laps of a stint, he'd be very, very strong on that compounded tyres, and then he would start to struggle. So I'm thinking, like you mentioned in the sprint, I do think Finley here has maybe got the tyre pressures a bit too high as he now gets a penalty on the exit of turn 1. Maybe he's got the tyre pressures too high and he's struggling with tyre overheating the further he gets into the run. So that definitely seems to be a trend that Finley is following. As Jinx, interestingly, pits at the end of lap 6 for a set of hard compound tyres. That is...
Finley made a bit of a mistake. I think he touched Cam a little bit there as well, which invited Charlie Harris once again to potentially get P2 then. So it looks like Finley's tyres, as you were saying, are definitely overheating here in Austria. So I think he's got a lot of work to do with the tyre pressures. Maybe it will help him in the races to come. Do not run your tyre pressures high, ladies and gentlemen, on this game. It does not work. It's not F1 2021 where you can run the tyre pressures all the way to the right. Run it all the way to the left in the dry, please. You can run it a little bit in the wet, obviously, but running all the way to the left in the dry, you should be absolutely fine. That's probably why Finley is struggling a little bit, potentially, as well. Jinx is on the hard compounded tyres then, so he pitted very recently as well, down to 11th position. We'll see if he can get his tyres to the end, but it's going to be harder than it looks. He's probably banking for a potential late safety car so he can go on to a set of the soft tyres, but we'll keep an eye on the front because that seems to be where the battles lies. We seem to be missing all the battles up the front then as we head towards turn 3 then, as Finley does not make a mistake heading towards turn 3 this time, but he had a bit of a tank zapper coming out of the exit though. So will this allow Charlie Harris again? Nope, it does not. Tam though, we are starting to see at this point of the race if the hard tyres are starting to catch up to the mediums, and I think Tam is closing in on Charlie Harris, so maybe the medium tyres are starting to run out a bit quicker than expected potentially. We are seeing GMAT trying to get past Petrodax as well, and he's on the hard tyres and Petrodax is on the medium tyres as well, so we've got to keep a close eye on this at the moment. We'll see the gap between Cam and Finley start to, I think, increase a little bit as soon as Finley starts to struggle on these tyres. But yeah, the gap is pretty stable at the moment, but maybe in a few laps time other people potentially could start to struggle. But we've already seen the gap start to increase from our medium runners already. The only 4 medium runners, by the way, are Finley, Charlie Harris, Petrodax and Speed 19. Pretty much 3 of them have got time, well, 2 of them have got time penalties. We got Jinx in that Mercedes, he's got a time penalty as well, unfortunately. But yeah, still a long way to go in this race, and we'll keep an eye on the pit stops to see when these guys are going to pit. It's going to be around about lap 14, 15. Maybe some people go lap 13. Yellow flag. That is Simon Palmer, I think. That's binned it. Yes, it was Simon Palmer.
Yeah, Simon Palmer having to spin out of turn 7. So the corner we mentioned just before the race started is one of the hot spots really for spins and overheating tyres. So Simon Palmer's in. I wonder if he'll retire in the pits. Hopefully he doesn't. He continues on, but we'll wait and see what he decides to do. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting point in the race now. I think Finley struggled a bit for the mediums. Cam overtook, and now Finley seems to have just calmed it down a little bit. So he's pulling himself along quite nicely behind the Williams at the moment of Cam. But if the race were to go with no safety cars now, Cam is in a much better position in this race than Finley currently is right now. Tam is just about holding on at the back of this train. He's got far more ERS than the drivers in front of him. He's got about the same as Charlie Harris, but he's got well over double and well over triple what Cam has in front. So Tam is just sitting in 4th, saving his ERS. There's a little bit of a mistake over the turn 1 curb there for Cam, and Finley potentially thinking about getting closer, but Finley doesn't seem to want to use any of his ERS, so I think he's just sitting behind, saving a bit of ERS maybe for a bit later on in the race when he can use it, as Kez is the next driver to pick up a 3-second time penalty. One driver I feel a little bit sorry for at the moment is Yaram. Yaram has no ERS to his name. He's derating in a straight line. He's actually got pretty decent pace. The only problem is that all the drivers in front of him have DRS, and he can't get into the DRS range to help himself pull himself along and to save some ERS. So Yaram at the moment is kind of in a little bit of no man's land in 5th position, hoping for somebody in front to make a mistake so we can close in. So look out for Yaram if he can get in this DRS train, maybe with an earlier pit stop later on. He definitely has good pace, but at the moment he's just stuck in a position where he can't really do much.
Yeah, which is a bit of a shame for Yarham, to be honest, as well. It's a track where you use too much ERS too quickly, and there is a danger that if you use it in the first few laps of the race, it's pretty much gone and it's hard to recharge. So I think Yarham is in that predicament at the moment. He can potentially save it a bit in the braking zones heading towards turn 1 and turn 3. I think that's the only places you can really save ERS, so we'll keep an eye on if he does save a bit of ERS as well. Not much change in terms of positions in terms of obviously the feature race. I think because of how high profile the sprint race is and obviously how short it was, that's probably why a lot of people were going for moves, and obviously all of them being on the medium tyres. But we've got a mixture of strategies here. A lot of people seem to be a bit more conservative, I think, because of what happened in the sprint. They don't want to be into a war and ruin their race already. I think we have Simon Palmer, who already, I believe, is a lap down. So, yeah, that is a bit unfortunate for him, as he had a very good race last week, but this week, unfortunately, is going a bit downhill for him. But still a long way of this season still to go with pretty much 11-10 races of this season still to go. Probably more, but I might have counted it wrong as Luke gets a time penalty as well. Penalties coming thick and fast, it seems, which could affect the outcome of this race. Charlie Harris getting a bit of slipstream from Finley, as for straight line speed as well. He's got plenty of ERS though, so that could help him heading towards turn 4. He's definitely saving it in all the right places, so he's going to be using it here, and then he's not going to be using it until he gets close enough to Finley, which is very, very nice and very brave as well. He's only going to use it when he goes for moves. Dangerous for Charlie Harris though. Look at the red warning light. He's anticipating a safety car. If there's no safety cars, he's going to be in a bit of trouble. But we're seeing the ghost of Simon Palmer trying to get past him. That's a bit distracting for Charlie Harris, but at least Charlie Harris may have got a bit of DRS there as well. But yeah, Charlie Harris is pretty much in fuel saving mode, I think, for some parts of the race.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be, hasn't he? This track is actually not that easy to save fuel on because there is quite a lot of hard acceleration zones where you're going to be using a lot. Obviously, you're running at a high speed a lot as well, so it's quite lethal on fuel, this track, it can be. So you've got to keep an eye on that one as the race goes on. And yeah, I think Simon Palmer trying to unlap himself here could be a little bit distracting for some of our leaders as he gets up another penalty. Does the Red Bull driver, he's now trying to unlap himself to Finley in the Alpine, see if he can get up into what is looking like a second position, but he's not, he's a lap down. So yeah, we'll see what Simon Palmer can do. He'll be hoping that he can get past Cam and then a safety car can come out so he can get to the back of the train again. But yeah, amazed so far, considering how crazy the sprint race was, that we've not had a retirement yet. But give it a couple of seconds and somebody will probably end up retiring for the race based on the commentators' curses that we've done so far tonight. But yeah, just looking at everybody else in this field, I don't know if Jinx has made another mistake somewhere that we haven't seen or not, but I'm very baffled by this early pit stop from Jinx because he pitted at the end of lap 7 for the set of hard compound tyres, doing 30 laps on a set of hards. It's possible, but they're not going to be fast by the end of this race. And looking at his lap times, he's not fast enough to really challenge any of our top 5 anyway. So he's kind of thrown himself into no man's lands by making this early pit stop, and he's running actually a second off his personal best time that he was doing on the mediums earlier on. So this pit stop for Jinx is far, far, far too early for him to really benefit from it. So I don't really understand this strategy call from Jinx, but we'll wait and see if it pays off for him later on. But I could only see Jinx being a factor in this race if we get some sort of safety car later on, because if this is going to run safety car free, the pace that Jinx is going to have in comparison to the people that are going to be pitting later than him is going to be much, much slower. So got to keep an eye out for that one later on where he feeds into the pack. But Jinx is, yeah, it seems like a bit of a mistake for Jinx to make that early pit stop. It definitely seems. I'm not quite sure why he decided to go for that. Cam at the front of the field is just now driving along, saving his ERS, not using any, trying to make sure that he's got enough for later on. Tam, though, is on the back of Charlie Harris, trying to get a move done down towards turn 4. He's got the outside line. Can he outbrake the Ferrari and go round the outside? Not quite. He's going to try the switchback, though, through turn 5 and into turn 6. He should have a better run, but I think he's decided he's going to back out of that one and let Charlie Harris have the corner. Charlie Harris holds on to 3rd, but I don't think it's long before we see Finley and Charlie Harris into the pit lane. We could see them in either this lap or the next.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is a danger that if they pit too early, like Jinx, they're going to lose so much more time, and it does take a while for the tyres to warm up around here as well, especially with how hot the climate could be at that time, because it is the summer conditions on this game. As Finley's got a time penalty, that could be huge in terms of the outcome of this race. His penalties are up to 6 seconds, so at the moment, Cam's in your net race lead, Charlie's in P2 as well. But we could see a fight between Charlie Harris and Cam for the race victory. And I think we've got a prediction in chat that's saying Charlie's going to potentially win this race today. It's still possible as well. He's still hanging in there on those medium compounded tyres. But he's got to get past pretty much 2 cars in order to do so. So it's easier said than done. And we've seen that Tam is chasing down Charlie Harris already, but he's not going to be brave to go for a move. He's doing something that I would do, not using his ERS until he sees fit. He's on 95%. I thought he would have used more in this race so far, but I'm guessing he doesn't want to be like some drivers who are on 0% already. Yellow flag, there's a Haas that's gone off. That is Petra that's on his wet setup. I wonder if he's got a puncher. Let's keep an eye on his car. I wonder if he's just gone for a spin. I think he's just gone for a spin. But I'm almost certain he could definitely go on a set of hard compounded tyres for that. I'm predicting pretty much Finley and Charlie to go into the pits now, but they do not. They're staying out. So my predicted pit stop strategy has probably failed for today's race. They're not coming in the times that I thought it was going to be. So I think they are expecting for the race to go longer than expected. And if we get to lap 2021, if there's a safety car that comes out, the people on the hards can go onto the medium. So maybe the risk for people going onto the hards was worth it, and that's definitely what Cam is showing. Those mediums looks like it's going off right now.
Yeah, I think honestly from this point onwards, I say if a safety car comes out, those that are on the hards now and will pit for the mediums are in a better position either way. I think it's definitely looking like it's going to be one of those races that benefits the traditional faster strategy of the harder compound to the medium compound in the second half of the race. Finley and Charlie are doing a good job of maintaining good pace on their medium compound tyres. They've not fallen off really in pace in any way, and they're not burning loads of DRS to try and keep up. And as I say that, Finley has dropped it out of turn 8. He's put the car in the barrier, and that triggers the safety car. Safety car is out, and Cam has just cut across the white line entry for the pit lane. I fear that may be a penalty coming Cam's way. Charlie Harris is into the pit lane. Tam's in as well. Yarim is in as well. I think everybody will be coming in for their pit stops. Charlie Harris, though, he'll be on the hards. He'll be on a tyre disadvantage. But Cam there, that's definitely a legal pit entry, so that will be something that will be looked at by the stewards.
I'm almost certain as well, and I was seeing the crash that Finley had, and it's just so easy to lose it in turn 8, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to catch Cam's pit entry. I'm not sure if they're watching out for pit entries in the steward's office tonight. I will obviously need to keep an eye out on that as well, because if they were told that they can't cut the pit entry, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. But if there is a bit of flexibility, then Cam should be all right. But well, I did say there was going to be a safety car roughly about this point, and yeah, it's came true. So I think a lot of drama here at VSL. Safety car in the sprint, safety car in the feature race as well. The ones who started on the mediums are probably a bit dumbfounded, I think, that probably there wasn't a safety car at the start. But the ones on the who started on the hards, is pretty much a free pit stop for them. But is it? Because those mediums don't last very long around here either. They only last about, well, they're meant to last 20 laps, I think, according to my fact sheet. But, well, you never know how long they last here. I think realistically, Optimum can last about 15. So we'll have to wait and see what they can do until the end of this race as well. We've got pretty much 20 laps to go of this race. So it's pretty much in the cut-off zone. We're going on to the mediums anyway. They had no choice, to be honest, as well. Everyone's made their stops. Jinx, if I was Jinx, I would come in. And is he going to come in? Nope, he's not. There's a bit of a risk for Jinx to get to the end on those hard tyres. I don't know. And same with Luke as well. What are the Mercedes drivers doing? We know that the Ferrari strategy was bad last season in real life. Are they turning into Ferrari strategies? Because it looks like it, doesn't it, Aiden?
It definitely does, yeah. We've got, I think, Speed Knighton's coming into the pit lane here in the Aston Martin, so he will jump into the pit lane, and Luke does follow him in, so Luke is into the pit lane as well, so he will change tyres. But yeah, Jinx here, I'm baffled by Jinx's strategy today. This is not going to work. He's got drivers on faster tyres lined up behind him, ready to have a go when the safety car comes in. He's also got 2 penalties to his name as Jinx as well, so yeah, he's going to have a really difficult second half to this race. It's Jinx. It's very unlike what we saw from Jinx in Silverstone. That was just a dominant performance last time out in Silverstone. Really strong race from the Mercedes driver. This time around, it's just not clicked really in the sprint or the feature race, unfortunately, for the Mercedes driver around Austria for some reason. And yeah, I would have pitted as well. If he had another set of mediums available, I would have done that. He would have been a bit lower down in the queue. He would have been around where GMAC is, but he would have at least had a fair fight on an equal set of tyres. And we know that Jinx has solid pace anyway, so I think he's just put himself on the back foot by staying out on those hard compound tyres. And yeah, obviously one thing to note as well in that pit stop phase, Tam having to double stack with his Williams teammate has actually dropped in behind Yarim, so Yarim's now into 3rd position now. He was 5th, he's now 3rd after Finley's crash and Tam's delay in the pit lane, and Yarim, after spending the first half of that race on his own in 5th, struggling to keep up with the train, he's now got a great opportunity of potentially fighting for the win of this race. So definitely look out for Yarim in this race. He's going to be very interesting in the second half of the race, as is some people a bit further down the field, of course, who struggled earlier on in the race, had problems at the start. Waitsy, definitely one of those. He had a strong pace in the sprint. He was on for a good feature race, but unfortunately got taken out in the first corner. He's now right back into the fray of things as well, as is Luke. So definitely got to look out for those two at the back to see if they can work their way forwards in this next part of this race and see how far they can get.
Yeah, indeed. Safety car will have to wait one more lap. And just like the last safety car we had in the sprint race, we got someone that's a lap down. It's not obviously Ewan. Ewan is having a much better race this time. He's probably learned from the sprint race calamities and he's up in 6th. And Simon Palmer is now a lap down, unfortunately, in 14th position. Unfortunately, he's not going to get his lap back, which is a shame as Speed Knighton comes into the pit lane on 6 lap-old hards, which is a bit unexpected. Yeah, he must have run out of tyres or something because you don't get as many hards for a weekend now. You only get one set of hards for the weekend. I'm not sure what you get if you select the harder option, but I don't think many people would go for the harder option if it comes to it. But safety car is in this lap then, so Cam will be controlling this field away from Charlie Harris, but he's got a lapped car between himself and Cam. Charlie Harris has to contend with as well, so Cam is pretty much in the best situation at the moment. Luckily, lapped cars are ghosted, but in safety cars, they are not. So hopefully, Simon Palmer has the instinct to move out the way straight away, because otherwise it's going to cause a few bits of chaos of people getting distracted, of course. People on penalties, got to be careful, because they're going to drop way down the field if things stay as they are. But, well, Cam has got to get a good getaway, because at the start, he had an awful getaway, but this time, he's had a much better getaway this time. He pretty much floored it before turn 9, and he's about 1.4 seconds clear of Charlie Harris. Is exactly what he needs so far. Yarham has had a good restart. He's on the fresher medium tyres, and his tyres are warmed up perfectly, as seen, heading towards turn 1, and he's got plenty of battery as well. He's got to be careful not to drain it too much, because that's why we saw Yarham be on his own for most of that race. But Yarham stays behind Charlie Harris for now. No major moves at the time being, but Jinx stays ahead of, well, Ewan Ham stays ahead of Jinx for the time being. GMAT is having a much better race so far as well, but he got caught up in that chaos early on as well. Casper having a good comeback as well, up into P7 as well. But let's watch Yarham then on the back of Charlie Harris. It looks like he's got better pace on those medium tyres. Obviously the delta is around about 5, 6, 10 per second between each of the tyres, so it could be the difference to make or break. He's got to make the moves done at the early part of the race, because the mediums start to die towards the end of the race. Yellow flag, that is rates here. I wonder if he got pushed round or if he spun by himself in turn 6, 7 area. I'm not sure, but Ratesy's day has gone from bad to worse. He started on pole, now he's down in P13, so yeah, not the races he would have liked to be. And I think he got spun in turn 1, which caused his race to go from good to bad, but there we go. But yeah, that's unfortunate for him. But yeah, 3.1 seconds Cam is leading already. And it just shows, well, him being on the hards, he had a good pace, and we were just playing it cautious, I think, at the start. But now he's definitely pushing, letting the carnage happen behind him.
Yeah, those hards on Charlie Harris's Ferrari just not coming to life, are they? They've not really got any pace at the start of this one. I mean, Charlie Harris was struggling to keep up with Simon Palmer on the same set of hard compound tyres that are a bit older when he was a lap down. Simon Palmer has now moved out the way of everybody, so he's dropped to the back of the field. But yeah, Charlie Harris on these hards, no pace at all, already 3.5 seconds behind Cam. Yaram's got to get a move on here. He's got to try and get past Charlie, because if he can get through on Charlie before those hards start to equal out in pace with the mediums, he could gap the train behind and end up giving himself a comfortable second place. He's just got to get the move done as quickly as possible. So DRS will be enabled when they cross the line this time around, so he will get it up in the run up towards turn 3. He will get DRS, will Yaram, and you would expect him to get the move done. But Yaram's used so much ERS already. Look, he's down to 20% already, while Charlie Harris is on 70. He's used so much coming out of the safety car restart, stuff that he's not needed to use. He had the tyre advantage, he didn't need to use the ERS advantage, but he's going to go for the move anyway up towards turn number 3. He'll have the inside line on the Ferrari. Can he get the move done? Gets down the inside. I think he can get the move done, but Charlie's going to have DRS and ERS to play with, but he's not got the run out the corner, and I don't think he's going to be close enough potentially to the back of the Alpine. Yaram is going to have to defend a little bit into turn 4. Charlie's not close enough though. Yaham is up into second place, but just like he did at the start of the race, he's burnt all of his ERS immediately, and now he's derating. That's going to give him a massive disadvantage, and it's going to allow the likes of Charlie and Tam to keep up. As further down the field, Luke has had another spin, so Luke, another driver whose day has gone from bad to worse.
Yeah, Mercedes, I think, are not having a good day, to be honest, which is a bit of a shame. And it's a day where Mercedes unveiled their new livery in real life as well. So I'm guessing both of the Mercedes drivers want their liveries to change ASAP really, because they're not having the similar day to what we saw last week with Jinx leading everything and dominating everything. But in this part of the race where we're seeing Cam dominating, it did look like it at the start of the race, didn't it, with his bad start, but definitely he's managing his ERS to perfection, whereas Yarham is not. And I'm seeing Yarham was using it on all the straight. There's no point in using the ERS until you're close enough on Charlie Harris. Just use that tyre advantage and you should be fine. Meanwhile, Jinx getting past, well, staying ahead of Ewan for the time being. Ewan trying to get past for P5 with that tyre advantage then. I wonder if staying out has cost Jinx in any way. He goes down the left-hand side of Jinx in towards turn number 4. They've got to leave as much space as they can, as that's what's been the cause of many incidents so far in this Grand Prix. As Ewan is up to 5th place. We've got Casper on the other hand going past on the left-hand side in towards turn 7 as well. Jinx trying to use all the curb that he can to make sure he stays ahead, and that works really well. But Casper still going side by side towards turn 8 then, as they go down the hill towards turn 9 and 10, using that curb once again to good advantage. Casper has no penalties. Jinx does. Casper having a little bit of a tank slapper. That is allowing GMAC to come back fighting. And don't forget, he retired in the sprint race. He started dead last in this feature race. He's already up to 7. Casper's missed his braking point in turn 1. That's not good for Casper, but GMAC took the advantage, and to be honest, GMAC is having a very decent race. Keza, on the other hand, is also having a decent race despite that penalty. Gets past Petrodance up into 9th place.
Yeah, good recovery so far from Keza. GMAC as well, like you say, yeah, having a solid race so far, keeping it clean, keeping his nose out of trouble. I don't know what has happened to Casper, because it was all over the back of Jinx. I don't know if he's picked up any floor damage or something, but that car seems to be all over the place, and he's really struggling all of a sudden, so not quite sure what's happened to Casper in the last lap or so. But yeah, we've got a train of cars from second down. Dewan, you've got to say, I think so far, Dewan's for me is going to be one of the standouts. He had a horror show of a race last time out in Silverstone. Did not have a great race in the sprint race either here, but in running at P5 at the moment, doing a solid job in that AlphaTauri for Dewan, much more like it for him. So yeah, doing a brilliant job, currently in 5th position, and there's still plenty to play for in front. Cam though, if he is going to get a penalty potentially for that pit lane entry, he is doing everything in his power to make sure that the penalty that comes his way is not going to affect his race, because he is now 5 seconds in the lead. And this is just to show kind of the pace that Cam was threatening if we didn't have a safety car. If he was going to have to pit onto the mediums under normal racing conditions, Cam had so much pace in his back pocket that he could use. And look at the gap that he's now leading because of it. He's just pulling away lap by lap by lap, and nothing the drivers behind can do about it. So yeah, brilliant stuff. As here comes Tam now on Charlie Harris, trying to get to the inside line. Charlie Harris running in the middle of the road, trying to squeeze Tam to a tight line for turn 4, but Tam going to be late on the brakes, and the Williams down the inside. Charlie Harris trying the switchback, but he just doesn't have the grip or the traction on the hards to be able to pull that off. Tam is back up into the podium places.
Yes, brilliant stuff from Tam, the debutant in this league so far, showing the debutants, the other rookies off really, that he's definitely one of the strongest in this field so far. And it looks like Williams could be leading the constructors going into next week in Miami if they keep this up, because they did quite well in the sprint race as well. So pretty much all Tam's got to do is get past Yarham, which I think Tam could have the advantage here because he has 45% ERS, whereas Yarham only has 6. And Yarham is using it to try and defend, but he's going to be derating, and it's not going to be that good for him. Look, he's already derated now, so that is costly for Yarham. So surely Tam can see Yarham harvesting in the background as well, so he could use a bit of his ERS, Tam, which he does. He doesn't use it for whole of the back straight though, so let's see what we can do here heading towards turn number 4 then. Not quite able to make the move, so I wanted the medium tyres are starting to give up the ghost a little bit early on, which is not ideal because we only have about 11 laps to go of this Austrian Grand Prix. And yes, that is a danger of obviously using your ERS too early as well, and using it just to try and stay ahead of these drivers as well. You could lose quite a few positions already. I think we've got to keep an eye on Ewan as well, who's got plenty of ERS. He could be winning this fight, but he's got to get past Charlie Harris. Speed Knighton has had a little bit of a spin just now, heading towards turn 7. He's going to be the only finisher so far that's not going to get any points. But keep going, Pete. There could be one more time, and you could get points somehow. So as long as he keeps going, that should be absolutely fine. So Tam, he's got his second chance to get past Yarham. Is this going to be the chance where it counts for him, really? He's got to do it now, but he does not. He's got the DRS, And I think you can see Johan struggling in corner entry as Speed Knighton is out of the race, and everyone who's finished this race is going to score points. Looks like Johan is not challenging Tam for the move there, and I think Johan has conceded defeat, unfortunately. Tam's up to second. It's a Williams 1-2, just like we saw in the sprint race.
Yeah, just like we saw, like I say, in the sprint race, Williams 1-2. Tam has worked his way back through after being delayed in the pit stop, so brilliant recovery so far from Tam. I think Johan now just has to sit behind Tam and pull himself along and save a bit of ERS, because the fact that he has no ERS is costing him too much time, isn't it? He's just too slow in a straight line to do anything, whether that's battle anybody or pull away at the front of a train. He's just not got the straight line speed to do anything with that lack of ERS. So if he can sit behind Tam and save some, that will help him later on in this race, of course, if there's any sort of fight with the drivers behind him. And he's trying to see if he can chop Charlie Harris, but Charlie Harris, considering he's only dropped to 4th on this set of hard compound tyres, has actually done a pretty solid job of maintaining good pace on these hards, despite them not really having any sort of delta difference in terms of wear on them. So Charlie Harris doing a good job now, and it's only going to get better for him as we get later into this race, are the hards. I think the mediums should be fine in terms of pace towards the end of this race. So Charlie, I think it's going to just have to be, he's going to have to find an opportunity to get an overtake done if it comes his way on Tam and Johan, just on pure pace rather than tyre wear itself. But either way, P4 seems to be the worst that Charlie's going to get in this race. So he's done a pretty good job of managing the deficit in terms of tyres as the Ferrari driver, as Petrodax is the next driver to pick up a time penalty, unfortunately, down in P11, which would just keep him in P11 at the moment. Waitsy is behind him by over 3 seconds, so Waitsy is the last person to score a point at the moment. Cam, by the way, now 5.6 seconds up the road, so Cam is just driving off into the distance, much like we saw Jinx do last week. And yeah, brilliant stuff from Cam. A bit of a good recovery after what was a poor Silverstone for him.
Yes, because he only finished 11th. He only scored 2 points, but he's going to score 8 points in the sprint. Looks like he could get maximum points here today, which will be absolutely amazing. I can't remember who got fastest lap in the sprint race. It is very hard to tell, as Casper has got past a few drivers, because G-Max has spun. He's been having such good race so far. Unfortunately, he's down to 11th and had a bit of a moment. Unfortunately, Luke's had a bit of a moment as well, as G-Max having a battle with Waitsy in the background. Jinx is up to 5th. Ewan's up to 6th. So what's happened to Ewan? He struggled a little bit there. There's a lot of chaos, I think, in the background, it seems, for the midfield at the moment, as Johan and Charlie Harris having a ding-dong battle so far. Charlie Harris lost P3 from Johan, and I thought Johan would have struggled with this lack of ERS, but I think it must be the tyre difference that Johan is having at the moment. He is now in the top 3 of this race, which is very, very good to see. It would really help him to keep up with this fight, because if everyone else struggles, if the Williams start to squabble a little bit, Johan could be on for this race victory. But we'll see Charlie Harris try to go for a move once again. He's got to take advantage of Johan's mistake here, because all this is doing, Tam is now pulling away into the distance at the moment. And Charlie Harris is going for an unconventional line there, heading towards turn 3. Not much space given there, but he's got the move done anyway. It was very brave. I think if Johan defended that, they would have crashed and gone into a wall. So Johan did the right thing, managing to back out of this one. But is Johan going to go for it towards turn 4? The answer to that is no. So Charlie Harris back up into podium spot. We'll keep an eye on the gap between Charlie Harris and Tam to see if Charlie Harris can sneak and catch that P2 away from them. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, a lot of mistakes from a lot of drivers here at the back, unfortunately. But at least G-Mac is still in this race.
Yeah, at least he's still going, like you say, he's P10 now, but yeah, he's managed to not pick up any damage. He's still going in this race as well. So yeah, it's not the end of the world. He'll still get points, but not ideal, of course. He was having a solid race in P7, but that is now belonging to Casper, who's in a world of their own at the moment in P7, 3.5 seconds behind their drivers in front and 4 seconds ahead of the back behind. So Casper a bit of a lonesome race at the moment. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Charlie Harris can now do on these hards. Can he catch Tam and close in and try and take back that second position, or is third the best really he can do? We've got another yellow flag. That is Luke again that's had another spin. God, the Mercs really have had a horror show of a race today, haven't they? It's such a difference to what we saw in Silverstone. Jinx dominated and Luke managed to work his way through the field and have a clean race and not really open any eyes, but have a solid race and pick up some solid points. This time around, it's very much the opposite. Jinx has had really no pace in this race in comparison to what he had last week, and Luke has made so many mistakes, the most mistakes of anybody. So yeah, complete turnaround for Mercedes. It's been a real shock of a race, sadly, for them. And it's not what they need. They don't need this inconsistency throughout the whole season if they're going to want to fight against the likes of Williams for a spot at the top of this championship. And as I say that, Jinx gets another time penalty, so that's going to drop him even further down the field when this race ends. So yeah, really, really poor showing, unfortunately, today for Mercedes. And for Yarham as well, I think his undoing is definitely the fact that he just burnt all of his ERS far too quickly. That meant he was so slow in a straight line, and we've mentioned it already that pretty much half this circuit is a DRS zone, and if you've not got the ERS to use, you're just a sitting duck in a straight line, especially if you make a little bit of an error. That's exactly what Yarham did, and he just got absolutely blitzed by Charlie Harris in the straight line because he had nothing to fight with. And we said it at the start, didn't we? Yarham, he burnt out his ERS too quickly. It cost him an opportunity of closing in on the top four when he was in fifth. And the exact same thing has happened here. He burnt all of his ERS trying to get into second before the DRS was available, and now he's just falling straight back down to fourth again.
Yeah, and he's derailed just there, you see, and there's not going to be a chance for a safety car for him to save some ERS, so he's in a little bit of a state of bother. We have seen safety cars being called at this point before, but very unlikely. I'm a bit worried about Jinx, by the way. He's going to get a puncher soon if he's not careful, so if I was him, go for a set of softs. You're going to get points anyway. If you get fastest lap, you get an extra 2 points. So I think it's better than dropping way down the field and only getting potentially 1 point. So if I was Jinx, I would come in, go for a set of softs pretty much now and try and get that fastest lap. If I was Jinx's Jeff, I would definitely tell him at the moment. But yeah, he seems to be struggling on those hard tyres so much that Ewan could be catching up to him sooner or later as well. Gap now 7 seconds between Cam and Tam. 8 tenths between Charlie and Tam. 8 tenths between Yarham and Charlie Harris so far. Pretty much the top four pretty much have made the least mistakes out of anybody in this race, which is very great to see. And as I just said that, Yarham has clipped the grass a little bit. Did about to Bottas for the time being as well, but hopefully he hasn't lost that much time over Jinx, as Jinx could take that advantage, try and get past Yarham on track, at least with 4 laps to go of this Austrian Grand Prix. But yeah, Luke then has decided to do what I told Jinx to do and go on the set of the soft compounder tyres. I don't blame him. He's going to try and go for fastest lap, get the 2 extra points, which means he could get 3 points in this race instead of 1.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it, especially for someone at the back of the field to just pit and try for that fastest lap. Definitely worth it. It's interesting to see what Jinx will do. Jinx is now in DRS range of Yarham, but of course Jinx has penalties to his name that are going to stop him really anyway from really benefiting from anything. He's got 9 seconds of penalties, so at the moment that would drop him behind Casper in P7. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the best course of action is here for Jinx, whether he just pits and tries to get the fastest lap and try and gain a few places back. I think it's better for him to stay out now at this point in the race. If he wanted to try and gain those places back, I think he needed to pit 5 or 6 laps ago for a fresh set of mediums so that he had enough time to work his way back through the field. I don't think he has the time to do that anymore, unfortunately. So he's just going to sit in 5th and hope the drivers behind drop out of his penalty range. But at the moment, that is not happening, sadly. Yeah, Yarham, though, these medium tyres for some of these drivers are really starting to fall off, aren't they? Yarham has completely lost touch with the podium spots. He's fallen right back into the clutches of Jinx and Dewar now, who are potentially fighting for P4 here on the road. And Charlie Harris has managed to get back within range of Tam in front. So I think the Hards have all of a sudden just hit a wall of pace, and they're now starting to fall off the cliff ever so slightly. Luckily for Cam, he has built such a lead in this second half of this race that it doesn't really matter. He can just cruise to the end from here and not have to worry. I think the likes of Tam is definitely under pressure here of losing a second place finish and a 1-2 for Williams in the feature race along with the sprint. It could be a complete lockout of points for Williams in this race if they could get this 1-2, but it's looking less and less likely by the laps. It's looking more like Charlie Harris has got enough in the bank potentially to fight for this. I think he's potentially going to wait for the final lap, but he can see in front that Tam's got no ERS to play with. Charlie Harris has got 40%. And he's on the better tyres at the moment, so I think Charlie Harris here is a shoe-in potentially for a second place finish.
It could be maximum points, I think, for Williams at this stage, because Cam has got the fastest lap so far with a 106.522, and even though Luke's on the soft tyre, he's got to find pretty much a second to, as someone has just got, I think, a penalty as well, or someone has just had a little bit of an off, unfortunately, as Luke, as I just said that, has got the fastest lap of this race by a tenth. So he's found a second that he needs at the moment, so he's going to get 3 points so far. So at the moment, not quite enough for Williams to get maximum points in this race, but surely that won't matter to the Williams pairing so far, as we're about to approach the final lap of this race. Cam leads from Tam, but Charlie Harris is looking very, very racy so far for the final lap of this race. This could be the pace that he's been looking for. He has been patient, to try and pretty much get on at the second spot on this podium. And look at that straight line speed he's got in comparison to Tam. His hards are definitely livening up here in Austria as we head towards turn number 3, and this was the move that he was looking for. Charlie Harris is on for P2, and he's stopping the Williams for getting a 1-2 for a second race in a row this evening. Charlie Harris is unchallenged on this final lap, which has definitely helped him so far. Ewan is definitely trying to challenge Jinx for 4th, but it looks like he's going to get 4th. Petrodat is out of this race. He's binned it on the exit of turn 3 as G-Max has now gone past him up into P9. Luke's about to start his final lap, but let's go on board with Cam. Did not have the best of starts. Tam's got a penalty, which will push Ewan up, I think, but probably won't make a difference. But Cam, dominant for the second half of this race on the mediums. He wins in Austria, and he takes maximum points here today. Charlie Harris, great result for him. P2. Tam comes across the line in 3rd. Almost maximum points for the Williams team, but not quite at the moment. Ewan up to 4th place. Casper in 5th place. Casper was in the middle of nowhere in this race, but he kept it clean for most of it. Let the carnage unfold, and he was able to stay in 5th place. Jinx in 6th. Yarham dropped down to 7th due to those penalties. Vatesy in 8th. GMAT in 9th. And Keza in 10th position. And, well, Luke does need to go for fastest lap again, because at the moment it looks like he's got fastest lap still, but he may want to go for a little bit of glory points, I think. Nope, he's going to do donuts. Lovely! Don't crash on the line, please, because you don't want to retire yourself. Come on, get the car. Oh, well, he's got nothing to lose at the end of the day. I just don't want to crash into him to crash into a wall and retire from the race. Luckily, he does not do that. He finishes, he gets 3 points for Mercedes, which is better than 10th place, not gonna lie. He equals 9th place in this race, which is great. Jinx gets driver of the day, but I don't think he's gonna get driver of the weekend due to his incident today. But again, we'll have to wait and see what the stewards have to say, because it's not down to us. But excellent weekend for Williams, isn't it? An excellent weekend for Cam. I mean, you know, he scored points in every single race so far, even though he only got 2 points in Silverstone. Could this be what he needs to potentially close up to the lead of the championship?
I think it definitely is, yeah. You've got to say, for the pace that Cam had, the 2 points he got in Silverstone is not a reflection of the pace that Cam had at Silverstone. He just spun when he was in the top 5, wasn't he, fighting early on, and had an early spin in Silverstone. So there was a lot more on the plate for him in Silverstone, but a great way to bounce back. A brilliant way for Cam to bounce back from a poor showing in Silverstone with a double win in the sprint and the feature here. Really, really strong showing. Strong showing as well from Tam, even if he did lose that second place. That's 3 podiums in 3 races if we include the sprint for Tam. I think he should take the championship lead after this one. I think Cam, because of the poor performance in Silverstone, will still not quite be in the championship lead, but we'll wait and see. But either way, Tam's had a great night tonight as well, and Charlie Harris
Tam.
as well.
Tam could be championship leader.
Yeah, good race. Yeah, and Charlie Harris as well, another one. Really, really solid performance from Charlie Harris today. Wasn't on the ultimate strategy, but he made the best of the strategy he was on. Really good result, and a great result from Ewan as well. Ewan has struggled in the opening rounds, was a lap down in the sprint, but to finish 1/10 of a second away from a podium finish, really, really strong result from Ewan today. He's definitely a driver to note.
And it shows, Ewan has shown you do not give up in league racing. You would be a lap down in 15th position, and now you're in P4 in the feature. So those are your results, scrolling down to P15. We've only had 3 DNFs in this, well, it wasn't as crazy as the sprint, luckily, but I think they've learned their lesson from the sprint, it looks like. But yeah, it was quite a good race for a lot of drivers, but certain drivers, I think, really needed to step it up, I think. In terms of obviously how they approached this. Obviously Charlie Harris having a good recovery at the end there as well. Simon Palmer was a lap down for most of it. Petrodax having a wet setup. Luke making the most mistakes in that race, unfortunately. Having a better race. It's a mixture of ups and downs, I think, for a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, definitely a lot of ups and downs, like you say, and a lot of fluctuation in differences between the first race and the second race in terms of pace. Like we saw, obviously, Jinx dominate the first race, didn't have the pace today really to fight even for a top 5 result realistically. We had, of course, Luke had a strong race in Silverstone, not today, really struggled today. opposite, of course, Cam struggled in Silverstone, but had a really, really good result today. So we've already seen quite a few big fluctuations between the first 2 rounds, which is definitely very interesting. So, and there's drivers today that had pace that couldn't get the result out of it. Waitsy, definitely one of those that was hindered quite heavily in that feature race and didn't get the result he potentially could have in that race. So, yeah, a lot to look forward to going forwards in the season. But I think if we're taking the first 2 rounds as they are, and as an indicator of what's to come, I think you've got to say that Cam looks like he's the one to beat.
Yep, he does. He just missed out last season, and he's a man on a mission. He wants to win that title going in to pretty much the end of the season as well. He wants to have a pretty much strong start, middle, and end to the season. And I think it just goes to show that he definitely likes Austria. Not gonna lie. Next race, we go to a track that he didn't like last season, Miami. A bit of carnage. Obviously, it first opened last year in real life, of course, and obviously it's one of the 3 USA races this year on the real life calendar in 2023 as well. I think this could be, redemptive for a lot of the drivers, as they've spent a lot more time getting used to the track now. The Miami was at the beginning of the game cycle. We're now at the middle of the game cycle. Pretty much no excuses for people getting used to the track now. Most people have done at least 1 race on this game around there.
Yeah, definitely no excuses. Like you say, it's very different to the first 2 rounds, of course. It's our first street race of the season. There's a lot more corners, a lot more tight and narrow sections, especially, of course, those chicanes that are not very popular in the middle part of this Miami circuit. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting races. Miami's strategy could be different as well. It's, like you say, it's not a track that's used very often. So we're going to see definitely potentially some people come to the front of that one as well. Obviously, we do have some potential street circuit specialists in the field, so we've definitely got to look out for those next time out as well. So yeah, another track that, because it's so different to the first 2 rounds we've had, we could again see a completely different order.
Yes, indeed, and hopefully we'll have more drivers racing next week as well around Miami. That could be quite interesting, and Miami does tend to throw a bit of wet weather on this game as well, so I think that could be quite a bit of chaos. Let's hope we don't have a wet qualifying like we saw in Austria, but at least we'll have short qualifying this time. So thank you very much for listening to VSL F1 here today. We hope you enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for what's to come for VSL. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit that bell if you are new. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at VSL F1. Make sure you check out our sponsors, like I was saying, PJR Designs as well, before their real rims. They're absolutely lovely. Make sure you follow us on socials. The links to those are below. You can see our socials on the camera feed as well if you want to follow us on Twitter. Also join our Discord as well if you want to get involved in future seasons. I've been Jess Ball, Aidan Carter's been Carmentus, and we'll see you same time next week for, I'm trying to remember the Miami Grand Prix. There we go. Miami Grand Prix. Have a good evening and goodbye.